One certainty in life is that nothing's predictable. We don't know what'll happen tomorrow, no matter how many plans that we make. When Chris and I met, it was just like a fairy tale. Who was this man? We talked and we talked and we laughed and we talked more day after day. Our souls just wouldn't let go of each other. When Chris proposed, he knew I didn't want a ring. So he found my favourite tree, a Moreton Bay fig, and complete with a beautiful plaque, we planted it in the pouring rain. Chris's ashes are now under the tree. We were married under the gazebo in the front yard and created the perfect day. It was totally us. He was my best friend. Being with Chris was so much more than I could have ever imagined a relationship to be. Our favourite saying was, "It just doesn't get any better than this," except that it keeps getting better. Then MND hit. That life-changing moment of diagnosis, and what followed seemed surreal. And yet, every single day, all around the world, there are hundreds of thousands of people dealing with what's termed a rare disease. Your chance of getting MND is about 1 in 400, and there's no cure. None. By the time Chris was diagnosed, he was getting really hard to understand. He was having trouble speaking, swallowing, his hands were getting weak, and he was walking unsteadily. From the moment that we knew we were facing a terminal disease, we were hit with a continuing tide of deaths. What Chris could do one day was gone the next, gone forever. The death of so many dreams, the death of his working life, the death of being a husband and wife, and then the loss of the one I loved. A couple of months after Chris died, I went out for a walk on the property. It had had to fend for itself while I looked after Chris, and to my amazement, I found thousands of primary koala food trees had self-sown while he was ill. Nature was putting things back into a beautiful order. This discovery was the beginning of my healing. Now, each morning I wake early and make a cup of tea. Then I climb back into bed and go online and give and receive support with others who are dealing with MND. I had this incredible peer support while I was caring for Chris online, and it gives me a lot of comfort to offer support, but I'm also supported by other past carers as we strive to heal from our loss. I try to help people come to a place of acceptance so that they can deal with this disease with as much dignity and quality of life as possible. My book, my story, Overcoming a Loss by 1,000 Deaths, is about our love and the hardest of journeys. I'll always bear the scars of my loss, and yet my story brings hope as to how love can guide and sustain you through the darkest of journeys.
So I'm often asked what's motor neurone disease, and in a couple of quick words I say it's a rare disease, but it's not that rare. There's 2 or 3 Australians diagnosed with it every day, which is about roughly what the risk of dying on a motor vehicle accident around Australia is at present. It is a sad, quite a harrowing disease. It's what we call neurodegenerative disease, which means it's not an infection or inflammation or tumour, it's just a degeneration of the brain. And it is the condition that many of us, certainly anyone who works in the health field, but certainly patients with motor neurone disease, families and friends, would describe as about the most sad and horrific sort of condition to get. It is, for those of us who do look after patients with motor neurone disease, however, I view it as a privilege. It's a privilege not because we're obviously going to cure people, because we don't, but it's a privilege in this very cynical and selfish world that we live in to actually be reminded of the true strengths of human nature, both with the patients, but particularly with their carers, family and friends. And if you really want to see resilience and true love and resourcefulness, come and have a look at a group of patients with motor neurone disease. And it's hard for all of us, but it really does lighten our spirits to see how people respond to it. So when we get around to this recent book by Katrina Jeffery, which I've read lots of illness memoirs over the years, both by patients and by carers, this really stands out because it is dealing with this very difficult condition, motor neurone disease, but it stands out because of the absolute brutal honesty with which Katrina has written. She's anyone who's read the book, and hopefully who will read the book, will find she's an extraordinarily articulate, she's very honest, and she has great insight into both her own emotions and the emotions of Chris, the victim with motor neurone disease, her beloved husband, but also the people around her. And it's I think about the book, I think about great books of history. I think about Dickens or something writing about London, describing emotions then. What Katrina has done for illness memoirs is similar to Dickens and Victorian London. She describes it so well, and it's not just motor neurone disease. It could be any fatal disease. What it's like to see one of your most loved person go through such a condition. So at the end of the day, this book, and I do strongly recommend that people have a chance to get into it, and it's harrowing reading at times, but you feel enriched when you have read it. But if you do read it, you will find it is a true love story, and it's not the razzmatazz love that we sometimes think about. It's what true devoted love is all about, and it gives us a pathway for those of us who have to care for people like Chris and similar in the world. It gives us a pathway to the future. It gives a bit of hope, and it gives us some clues as to how we, the non-patient, the carers and the allied health people and the medical profession look after these people. It gives us some clues as to how we can do it better. So I commend Katrina for being so brave to write this book, and I commend her for the manner in which she's done it, and I hope it is well received in the MND world, but right throughout palliative care centres and indeed anyone who's interested in human spirit.